On November 8, 2023, a new round of Gaza war began for 1 month and 1 day. The picture shows Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant. He said yesterday that the military action against Hamas will continue for some time. Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant, that is to say, the United Nations General Assembly resolution, requires them to cease fire unconditionally, and the massive demonstrations that have erupted around the world turn a deaf ear to them, and they continue to kill. They use the pretext of annihilating Hamas to lift 2.3 million Palestinians and ask them to sit together and take responsibility collectively. In the eyes of Israelis, the killing of children, women, and infants is far from enough. According to Mr. Hushijin, usually with the death of one Israeli, they need 100 Palestinians to survive. This Hamas raid has caused great losses for the Israelis, and 100 Palestinians have died for one Israeli, which is no longer enough to pacify their desire for revenge. Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant strongly stated during the 1-month period of the Gaza war that Israeli military operations against the Palestinian Islamic Resistance Movement Hamas will continue for some time. The former head of Mossad in Israel disdainfully offered a solution to the Palestinian problem, sending work to countries around the world, requiring each country to receive 20,000 Palestinian refugees. Didn't you say they were all refugees? Each country receives 20,000 people, such as Canada receiving 20,000 Palestinian refugees. Being a Canadian refugee is better than being a refugee in Gaza. The devil is smiling ferociously, the devil's sense of humor. Don't you think it's terrifying? China's crazy Jewish elites defend Israel. If it weren't for your surprise attack on Israel on October 7th, how could today's massacre have happened? Knowing that you cannot fight, you deserve to provoke Israel and encounter the fire of hell. Did the conflict between Israel and Palestine, or between Israel and the Arab nation, begin on October 7th? Why should China's crazy and refined seize the milestone of October 7th? Is there no conflict between Palestine and Israel before October 7th? Didn't Israel kill people in Palestine? For the Gaza Strip, including Jordan and the West Bank, the Israelites are an outsider. This outsider is not only immoral, but also bloodthirsty, murderous, cunning, and cunning. His advantage is that he is particularly good at telling stories and belongs to the category of historical inventors. They packaged murder and looting into a tragic motivational story, repeating that they are the most grateful people. Are you grateful that the Palestinians have accepted you? Your way of Thanksgiving is to have lived in a place where Palestinians have lived for over 2,000 years, with the most conservative estimate being over 1,300 years. They have gradually encroached upon it and killed all Palestinians, imprisoning the undead in an open-air prison of over 200 square kilometers for 56 years. In the words of UN Secretary General Guterres, Palestinians are living a suffocating life. If the Palestinians feel a bit hesitant, they invite you to slaughter them. The resistance of the Palestinians, including women who have lost their husbands and sons, and women who wear black robes and use stones to attack your military main battle tanks, are all described by you as terrorists. So you naturally killed a large number of widow terrorists, child terrorists, and baby terrorists. You used terrorism as an excuse to hide in schools and destroy them. You used terrorism as an excuse to hide in hospitals and destroyed them. You used the excuse of terrorism to hide in the mosque and destroyed it. You used the excuse that there were terrorists in the residential buildings. And, without hesitation, you destroyed the entire residential building, destroyed the entire Gaza Strip, and turned Gaza into a hell on earth. You drove out the Palestinians with genocide operations such as water, electric, electricity, food, and medicine cuts, as well as continuous bombing by airplanes. Before, I didn't quite believe what you said about practicing God's will in the promised land of God. Now, I can't doubt it anymore. After more than 20 days of slaughter in Gaza, your Netanyahu repeated the Holy Testament. Now you're going to strike the Amalekites, destroy all they have, don't pity them. Take men and women, children, sucklings, and cows, sheep, and camels, and the donkey. Kill as much as you can. She will fall by the sword. Babies will surely fall to death. Pregnant women must be cut open. Throw your baby onto a rock. The first time I went to Israel, I was amazed by the many stories in the belly of the Israeli tour guide. She pointed to a stone on the beach and could tell you half an hour in Balabara, saying that they were all stories from the Old Testament. Her eyebrows danced and her voice was vivid, similar to Master Wang Lin's disciples talk about the miracle of changing snakes. On the return bus, an old man from the same company avoided. The Israelites who could understand Chinese and whispered, "Truly, I can make up." Compile a book to deceive the world. Extort land is not enough, and there is still a great need to kill. One kill lasts for 70 or 80 years, while recounting how cruel and painful it was to be killed 80 years ago, and how it was refined into oil and made into soap blocks. Or are we dealing with humans with normal minds? The Netanyahu people do not treat the Palestinians as humans, accusing them of being humanoid beasts, so killing without any psychological burden. Research on abnormal psychology has shown that serial killers caused by a psychological illness are particularly skilled in multiple crimes, cruel tactics, and have a large number of victims, posing great social harm. They usually have a strong desire for control, aggression, and perversion, and their methods of committing crimes are very cruel, and they usually do not stop committing crimes. We cannot understand their criminal motives and behaviors with a normal mindset, because its desire for control and addiction to murder stems from severe physical and psychological abuse experienced in childhood. It leads them to have an extreme desire to control others. Through violence, they release their inner anger and malice, attack and destroy others, while also brushing off psychological trauma and oppression. What about individual abnormal psychology and collective abnormal psychology? Has anyone studied this problem? Perhaps this is the subject of the Nobel Prize in Physiology, Psychology, and Medicine